calcium, magnesium, and very soft water. My report shows calcium at 4.3 milligrams per liter and magnesium at 1.3. The lab also reports total hardness at 16 milligrams per liter as calcium carbonate. That's a standard way of expressing combined calcium and magnesium. In Australia, water under about 60 milligrams per liter is considered soft. So at 16 milligrams per liter, my water is extremely soft, which means it contributes very little calcium or magnesium. Why this matters more in Leca than soil. In soil, that wouldn't necessarily be a problem. Soil and organic matter have cation exchange capacity. They can hold on to calcium and magnesium and release them gradually over time. But in Leca, that buffering doesn't really exist. Leca has very low cation exchange capacity, so whatever calcium and magnesium the plant receives has to be present in the nutrient solution at the moment the roots need it. Calcium and magnesium are often talked about together, but inside the plant, they behave very differently. Calcium is immobile. It doesn't move. Once it's built into plant tissue, the plant can't move it. That means new growth and root tips rely entirely on steady external supply. We need a new supply of calcium at all times. Magnesium, on the other hand, is mobile. The plant can move magnesium from older leaves to newer tissue if it needs to. So calcium problems usually show up in distorted new growth and weak roots, while magnesium problems tend to show up as yellowing between the veins on older leaves. There's a guideline that often comes up in semi-hydro discussions, sometimes called the 5% calcium guideline. The idea is that if your fertilizer contains less than 5% calcium and your water is very soft, then your nutrient solution may not be supplying enough calcium on its own. I learned this framework from Alison, the long-winded Leca lady, and conceptually, it makes sense. Many fertilizers are formulated assuming that calcium will be coming from tap water. In my case, it clearly isn't. But this is where things become less clear-cut. My main fertilizer, Foliage Focus, contains about 1.3% calcium. Based on that guideline alone, I should be supplementing calcium all the time. And yet, I don't. I've grown large, healthy plants in Leca for years. Strong root systems, consistent new growth. Sometimes I've added calcium and magnesium, sometimes I haven't. And overall, my results have been very good. That tells me calcium availability may not just be about a percentage on a label. Based on my experience in semi-hydro, what may seem to matter most is delivery over time. How often you feed, how dilute the solution is, how healthy the roots are, and how fast the plant is growing all affect calcium uptake. A lower calcium concentration delivered consistently can behave very differently from a higher concentration delivered occasionally. Calcium moves into the plant with water, so anything that affects water movement, like temperature, airflow, humidity, and root health, also affect calcium uptake. Magnesium and balance. Magnesium adds another layer to this because calcium and magnesium share similar uptake pathways in the plant. That means they influence each other. High levels of calcium can reduce magnesium uptake, and high levels of magnesium can interfere with calcium uptake. This is one of the main reasons calcium and magnesium are often supplied together as CalMag, especially when you're working with very soft water. If your water contains very little of either and you're not treating a specific deficiency, using a combined supplement helps maintain balance rather than pushing one nutrient too far. Where people run into trouble is with blanket supplementation. Adding calcium or CalMag by default without symptoms or context can shift that balance and create new problems instead of fixing the original one. So again, this comes back to the same theme. In semi-hydro, it's not about adding more. It's about adding appropriately and keeping the system stable. So here's where I've landed with this, at least for now. When I started growing plants in Leca, I deliberately kept my nutrient setup simple. one base fertilizer, consistent feeding, and as few moving parts as possible. Looking at my water now and knowing how soft it is and how little calcium is in the fertilizer I use, I probably shouldn't have the results that I do. And yet my plants have done very well. That doesn't mean calcium supplementation isn't useful or that people who use CalMag are doing something wrong. In fact, based on my water chemistry, there's a very reasonable argument that adding calcium and magnesium more consistently could improve results further. It just hasn't been something I've prioritized so far because I wanted to understand how far a simple, stable system could go. So for me, the 5% calcium guideline is less a rule and more a prompt to ask better questions. If someone is using very soft water, a low calcium fertilizer, and they're seeing ongoing issues in new growth, then calcium or CalMag supplementation makes a lot of sense. If the plants are thriving, it's not automatically required, but it's also not off the table. Now that I have this water data, this is something I'm genuinely interested in exploring more deliberately. Testing different calcium levels, different nutrients, and seeing whether there's a measurable improvement over time. Because right now, the honest answer is that we don't have a single clear rule that applies to everyone. And I think it's more helpful to be open about that than to pretend there is. In the last section, we looked at calcium and magnesium and how they behave in the plant and why balance and delivery over time matter. There's one more piece to that picture. Calcium and magnesium don't exist in isolation. Their uptake can be affected by other ions present in the water.